Full auto, baby! Hey guys, it's Dest. Today, I'm going to talk about toy guns. When I was growing up, my parents would bring my brother and I out to visit my grandparents. And my grandparents basically live smack dab in the middle of a ton of cornfields. There's just nothing around. So, to keep us entertained, one of the things my grandparents did was they had a couple of BB guns, a couple pellet guns, and we had an air rifle. And we'd set up empty soda cans, or our favorite was to take a milk jug filled up with water, and then we'd plink at it until we hit it, and then watch the little water spurts from where we had struck the milk jug. But I'm betting that I'm not the only kid who grew up plinking or playing around with these toy guns. But these days, having a toy gun, whether you're out at home or out at school, can get a kid into a lot of trouble. I know a lot of you have heard of the one boy who got into huge trouble for chewing his breakfast pastry into a shape that resembled a gun. But there are a lot of stories out there. In the interest of talking about, toy guns and whether or not they're appropriate these days, and because I'm a huge kid, I've got a few of my own toy guns to review, and I want to share some of the more interesting toy gun stories I've found. I want to start with this. It's a concealed carry model here, as you can probably tell by the size. This is favored by the ladies, because it's small enough to fit in their purse and it's easy to operate. And you pull the cylinder release here, and it's actually a breech fed. So you can completely remove the cylinder, and in it here is a set of caps. And these caps, actually those are already spent because I like to shoot this. These caps have just a little bit of powder in the base and no projectile. So when you affix the caps to the cylinder, replace the cylinder, and it is a 8-shot, so it's a high capacity cylinder here. Snap it into place. And it's a good thing there's no projectile because it's a really short barrel. That'd be pretty high recoil, I'm thinking. Not to mention the barrel is capped. But otherwise, it's pretty much an assault revolver. No misfires. But, a toy like this can get a kid in a lot of trouble. I read a story in the Washington Post. It was published on February, and I will have links to all of these stories in the description so you can check them out. There was a 10-year-old boy who got a gun very much like this. Plastic toy from a dollar store, had a bright orange tip, and he stuck it in his backpack on the way to school. On the way home from after school, he goes to the Boys and Girls Club, and he had taken the gun from his book bag and put it into his pocket. And on the bus, he pulls it out and he shows his buddy that he's sitting with, hey, check this out. And so he shows his friend or whatever, but there's a girl sitting on another part of the bus who happened to see him with his toy gun. And I guess she got kind of scared because she went home and told her mom about it. Her mom kind of got freaked out, called the school about it. So the next day, the same kid goes to school, rides the bus in, and then when he gets to school, the school administrators take his book bag, search it, and they find the toy gun. And they're looking at it and they realize this is a toy gun and decide to call the police. So this 10-year-old kid was arrested, taken to the courthouse, read his Miranda rights. He now has, in addition to his 10-day suspension, he's got fingerprinted at a probation officer and a court date at 10 years old because he brought one of these to school in his book bag. I can only imagine what would have happened if he had had one of these. This is called the Hawk. Detachable box magazine, 4 rounds. What's interesting about this is it does have a projectile, except you have to insert the projectile into the casing manually. It doesn't take a lot of pressure. Then insert it into the magazine. Feed the magazine into the magazine well. And if you're worried about 4 rounds not being enough to dispatch your foe, in the stock, there's an additional ammunition compartment. All right. It's a fixed stock, but this is a short barrel. This would be an SBR. You do need to make sure you get your tax stamp for this. It's stuck to the wall. So, yeah. Alright, now I'm ready to go with another round. We've got a nice blade front sight here, which is only 4 inches away from the rear sight, but that's okay. You know, you work with what you got. Something like that, I'm sure, would make quite a stir. But, you don't even have to be at school to be getting in trouble with something like that. There were these 2 kids, boys, who were playing out in the park with a pellet gun. And funny thing is, there's a woman who saw them playing with this, pellet gun. And she realized by their play that it's got to be a toy. And then she still decides she's got to call the cops. Her reasoning was that, well, these kids are brandishing firearms. She doesn't care that it's a firearm made of plastic. Those are her words. She said that's unacceptable. And I guess the cops agreed with her because they found the kid's dad, and arrested him with several charges, including child endangerment. And their defense was that, it was really a way to educate people that, you can't be running around with a realistic-looking toy gun. So what do you think? I wonder about this one. Does this cross that bridge into realistic? This is the Joe Biden special. It is a over-under, and it is a breech-fed shotgun. So, all right, I got it fully cocked now. And like the other projectile firing toy, we here have these casings and our projectile that I will insert into the chamber. Got a nice responsive click there, so you know it's fed. Then you gotta make sure it's cocked. You got a nice short little front sight and rear sights. But this is short barreled, so you do have to make sure you've got your appropriate tax stamps filled out. All right, 1 trigger pull fires the first. This is very light. It's about, I'd say, I'm not measuring, but it's maybe a 1 pound trigger. But a heavier trigger pull, that second one fires the second shot. So you can just pull all the way through, fire both with only about a 4 pound trigger. When you're finished, you eject your casings, and then you can open your secret compartment and load up some more ammunition. It's a dangerous toy of mass instruction here. And you could use this great self-defense option. Just fire it through your door or up in the air, and you are guaranteed safety. But you don't need a realistic looking toy gun to get yourself in trouble. There's a story in the Daily Item, which is a periodical out of Pennsylvania. Oh, by the way, the last story was out of New York Magazine. The park was in Queens. But anyway, this 5-year-old girl is waiting in line to get onto the bus after school, and she's playing with her friends. She has her Hello Kitty bubble gun. So she's shooting bubbles at her friends, and she tells them, I'm going to shoot you, and shoots them with the bubbles. And then she says, okay, I'm going to shoot myself. Shoots herself with bubbles. And somebody must have found that really offensive, because the next day, the girl goes to school, and she's pulled out of her classes and is questioned for 3 hours without the knowledge of her mother. And then is actually suspended for 10 days because of making a terroristic threat. And, of course, her mother is distraught about this whole thing, so she's talking with the school about the disciplinary action. Eventually, they reduced the girl's suspension down to 2 days, for her threat to harm others. But this little 5-year-old now has on her permanent record that she is a troubled child. She had to get a psych evaluation in order to come back to school. And I can only imagine what her mom must think, but what do you guys think about that? I mean, pretty crazy, right? A little Hello Kitty bubble gun. But these are the times. So I would really love to hear your feedback. Send me some of your stories, or share some of your assault Nerf guns with me. Oh, and I have one last surprise. Speaking of assault Nerf guns, meet the automatic 20. This is an SBR Assault Nerf gun. It is a breech-fed, 20-round cylinder capacity automatic rifle. And the stock is fixed, and the sights are not that great, but I mean, look at that muzzle brake. So you know the recoil's not going to be bad at all. I mean, check this out. Oh yeah, full auto, baby. Oh. We still have a few more rounds, so it looks like either my battery's dead or we're having some issues. Alright, let's see what we got here. I guess we must have had a misfeed. I'm gonna have to talk to the guys about that, you know, for who sent this to me for T&E. If this were my own, I mean, look, those sights are not gonna do it. I'd have to throw an ACOG on there, but we gotta get that misfeed addressed first. Full auto, baby! Hey, I'm Destiny. What am I about? Well, first thing, I'm a shooter. I'm not an expert, but I am serious about my training and my practice with shooting, and I'm willing to take the time I need to train and study and develop my skills as a shooter. And along the way, I do have fun taking my experiences and putting them to film and music, and I put those on my YouTube channel. At the end of the day, I'm just a girl next door who loves to write, loves her dog, and reviews guns and gear with a twist.